think, yeah, so we are, Smart is a cooperative production house for freelancers and projects. We work primarily with the creative sector and in a very broad sense. So I think what we saw here before on the Mentimeter was fairly kind of was a good indication of our members. So I'm gonna sort of go from the back, from how I ended up in this organization. So this is I studied in London at Goldsmiths College, and I studied scenography and lighting design, and I became sort of really interested in like how can you use scenography and lighting design as a kind of a scenography in the urban space. So I sort of had this obsession idea that I wanted to sort of use a light as a kind of a life on its own in the kind of open spaces. So I started working with something called Digital Art Center at Stockholm University, which is a lab, and it's a lab for the meeting between art and technology. And we started and also developing projects. So I started working with them, and we kind of started developing this technology. This was with some guys from KTH, programmers, and we kind of went, how can you sort of, is there some, like, what devices do we all have? We all have phones. What is on a phone? It's a torchlight. What if everyone could sort of use their torchlight, like in a really sort of simple way, to paint the urban spaces around them? So it was this kind of, it sort of became like this kind of investigation into like how would that actually physically work? Like if I wanted to paint the whole of the royal palace, and I wanted to get a whole bunch of people like you people in this room to paint the royal palace with me and using light, how would that work? And so we started kind of working on this, and we started in 2013. And this is from a big, it's one of the largest lighting festivals in the world called Lumiere. It's in London, and they hold it every year. So we were invited there, and we took over this street in central London called just by King's Cross. And I think we had it was like 850,000 people that passed by the street. And we had, initially we kind of thought, well, could everybody who comes along the street sort of paint the street? And sort of had invented these sort of sticks with, where that you could stick your phone and you could sort of go around and paint the ground like this, this whole street. But it was just so many people there. I mean, it was literally like, there was just jam-packed. So people couldn't see the street. So all these kind of reflections that people were painting, it ended up in people's faces. So we had this, and it sort of turned into like this mad kind of digital face paint kind of thing. It wasn't our intention, but it sort of just turned out that way. So that's a bit about how my background, and this is another project that I'm working on at the moment. It's called Trace of Light, and it's a couple of dancers from Balletten, and again we're doing it with the Digital Art Center, and we're kind of investigating this kind of how can you work with dance and light, and how can you make an interactive scenography based on light, and how that the dancers' movement would create a live scenography around them when they're moving. And so anyway, so this was my babies, and I really wanted to and this was what I wanted to work with. At the same time, I realized that I was fucking shit at anything to do with project administration, like social avgift, you know, I was just rubbish. And so I've had my own company, I've run associations, and I just kind of realized that I'm really good at doing that, but I'm really crap at the other stuff. So I was really delighted when I found this organization called SMART, which is a non-profit association and a cooperative organization working with freelancers, just creating, which is basically a platform where I can just sort of plug in my projects and I can use it to administer the projects. So there's actually people sitting there doing that for me, which for me was really, really nice, and to be able to focus on this. Now, as it so happens, I've sort of, as the years went by, I've sort of continued working with this, but I'm now a little bit less shit at doing the admin. So now I also work as an advisor for other people who want to do their own projects and sort of docking in to the SMART idea. So that was kind of sort of my road into SMART that I'm going to talk a bit more about now. Oh yes, I have this. Sorry. This is so good. I'm just thinking, is there anything else that I should be talking about? No, I think I'm gonna stop there, and then something else might pop up into my head. So we are SMART, and SMART is here in Sweden. We're about 1,500 members. Our projects span from these guys that are a bunch of circus guys called Water on Mars, and we have most of the projects that we work with are collaborative projects, and there are people like myself who found it really difficult to find a good structure, a sort of understandable structure for creating projects together. I think we're really good at kind of saying, if you want to do something and you're just by yourself, then that's very easy, because then you just start your own company or something like that. You start an enskild firma, and it's fairly simple. But when you start to want to do things together with other people, then that's when it sort of becomes tricky. And my experience was that you had to kind of, oh, I'm going to do this, and do you want to be a part of it? Yeah, great. Well, why don't you invoice me and I can invoice you, and then we all invoice each other. And we had this kind of like melange of invoicing going back and forward, and so that's why we work primarily with collaborative projects and people who want to do things together, and to sort of simplify that. About 25% of our projects are international projects, so people facilitating kind of doing things across borders. SMART stands for Société Mutuelle des Artistes. So we are originally a Belgian organization, but we now exist in 45 cities in 9 countries, and we're about 100,000 freelancers across Europe. So, and for me, I think it's been really nice to just have that sort of security of, especially if you want to work in other places, that you don't only work in Sweden, and you don't only work, in a very, if you sort of want to collaborate across borders, then it's a good safety net. We are in Sweden, in Germany, in Berlin, in Belgium, lots of offices in Belgium, in Holland, in France, in Spain, in Italy, in Austria, in Hungary, and in Italy. That's it. And we are a cooperative, so we are owned by the freelancers who use SMART, who are employed by SMART. And most of them are in the creative sectors. I think it's because the creative sector kind of poses a number of different kind of difficulties and challenges that we all kind of have to, that are sort of, yeah, it's fairly complex. We develop online tools for our users that should be fairly simple to use to be able to facilitate doing projects together. And also for just simple kind of invoicing. And one of our sort of main goals, or that was the vision from the start, was sort of how do we facilitate working together across borders? Like, how do we do that, like, in a really kind of hands-on, like day-to-day, like, if I want you to be a part of my project and I'm sitting in Germany and you're sitting in Sweden, how does that actually work? Does everybody in the different countries have to have their own companies and then start invoicing each other? Or how do we do that? Like, how do we actually physically do that? So that's something that we do a lot, kind of advise people on how to create projects and how to, because I think it's also, there are great structures for if you want to do things long term, but not if you want to just do a project. If you want to do something that's short term, and often in the arts and in the creatives sector, we work in projects, or we work in sort of very fluid structures where we're 1 month us three were working together, but then the next month it's us three that are working together, and we kind of work in this sort of very fluid structures. So we wanted to sort of find a system that would kind of facilitate that. Am I? Yeah. So okay. So I wanted to take one of our users, Mariana Palacios, as an example. Mariana is from Spain, and she's a freelance filmmaker and a choreographer, and she's amazing. And just to kind of show as an example, like how it works for her. So she joined us about 2 years ago. She has, like many freelancers, she has multiple kind of ways of financing what she's doing. So she has a Kickstarter project for one of her films. She has, of course, she is invoicing for other work that she's doing. She has some public funding from Kulturrådet, and so on. So she's very sort of a typical kind of arts worker or a creative person. Now, of course, she could just. So we've sort of tried to make a structure for those very specific needs. So, for example, like she has a need to buy a lot of stuff. Like she needs to get this new camera she had to buy, and so on. So, if you don't have your own company and you still have all those needs, you need to have studio time when you're training with your dancers. You need to buy new camera equipment. And so what we're saying is, well, if you are in the smart structure, then you should be able to do that. Just as if you had your own company, you should be able to sort of use the smart aktiebolag to be able to do deductions, and just as if you had your own company. So she's I think a good example. Also, she's working with people from across Europe. Some of them work here, are from Sweden, and then she's working with a dancer from Spain that can be employed by Smart in Spain. So it's sort of, and that's kind of a nice way to sort of facilitate that. You know these girls? Yeah. So they're our big stars. We love them. And they are. They're a dance company. They're a Swedish dance company, and they are a feminist Swedish dance company. Depending, sometimes there's only 3, sometimes there are 5, sometimes there are 7. And they also work in other constellations. Sometimes it's only those 2 girls working together doing other stuff away from Juk, and sometimes those three girls are working and doing stuff on their own. But this is the project that they have together. And they have a lot of gigs both in Sweden and abroad, and so they can sort of both stuff that they're invoicing from different festivals or from different people where they're invited to dance, but also public funding from Kulturrådet, from Stockholm stad, Landstinget, and so on. So they're able to sort of take all that money in to their sort of what we call a smart account, and distribute it in amongst themselves. Now, when we take in these projects, we usually kind of sit down. We have a session. We sit down. We listen. We are kind of, so what are you? How do you want to work? Like, how much are you planning to get paid? Because we found that many people that we talk to are quite sort of people in the creative sector, and particularly in the arts, are permanently kind of underpaying themselves, I would say. Like, you would put themselves too low in their pricing. So we would have like a session and looking like, how much do you want to get paid, how much, so that's something that we work with quite a lot. And also, but I'm going to come to that. So this, I've sort of made this cake. I had this guy and he went, do you not have like a tårtdiagram? I went, no, I don't have a tårtdiagram. He said, you need a tårtdiagram. He was from Companion, actually. So I went, okay, of course I will make a tårtdiagram. So this is sort of what we do in short. So we do support for projects. So people would come. They would come at an early stage. Some people are already involved in a project. Some people have started an association, a förening, and have sort of already in that kind of sphere. Some people have started a company, and some people are very new and just had an idea. So it's sort of the span is very wide as to who comes, but I would say that the majority are sort of because they need to find a sort of an understandable structure to create these short-term projects. We work with this organization called Intercult. They part-own Smart, and Intercult is an association working with European funding, and they are a resource center, so they're really good. Like, if you're planning to sort of look into European funding, I would definitely have a chat with them, because they're a resource center and they can give advice on that. So we work quite a lot with them, and also because they have a really good network here in Sweden, and we have a good network in Europe. We market all our projects that are part of Smart, so that's something that we do. This almost, the check credit is sort of, it's primarily for those working with public funding, because sometimes you get, when you're working with public funding in some way, you would have, you would maybe receive 1/3 in the beginning, and then 1/3 in the middle, and then 1/3 at the end. But maybe you need to have the full amount in the beginning because of some reason. So we've said, well, fine, that's okay. You can have, if we know that the money is coming in, then you can have the money when you need it. So we are, instead of an association, and I think sometimes for creating projects, associations can be problematic. For many reasons. I'm not sure if I'm going to go into it now. No, I'm not. And also instead of a company. So it's sort of like, so we have one part of what we do is a sort of it's an invoicing service. What we feel is important is that if you are in Smart, then you should be considered to be employed. And there's a very simple reason for that, and that's that as an employed person, your status is completely different to what you would be if you are not employed, if you have your own company. The security is much higher, your social security. Facilitating international work and knowledge sharing. We do a lot, like we're out talking in schools, places like this, etc. And we specialize in cultures. All of us working in Smart are arts practitioners. So what we've created now, and what we're launching in next month, is it's a specialist online tool for project management. So at the moment we just have a very simple kind of how to do invoices, but now we want to look at, well, how can you have something which is actually relevant for all those that want to create projects. And so this a question of social security. It's sort of something that Smart in Belgium, where we started, decided to say, well, we are a cooperative for freelancers, an employment cooperative. So what we sort of saw, what we've sort of seen throughout Europe is sort of that people are sort of, especially freelancers in the creative sector, are sort of not, are kind of falling outside of the social security net. And this is within what we call the gig economy. Is everybody familiar with the gig economy or what that means? No? Well, it's sort of that instead of working in employments, we're working in gigs, short gigs. We're invoicing quick invoices for work that we do. And this has sort of been a rapid movement across Europe where we're seeing that people are, losing out on pensions, not being able to maybe be at home and be sick, be at home with their kids when their kids are sick, taking parental leave, things like that. It's sort of disintegrating. And so what Smart said was, well, okay, we'll create a structure which is where we can focus on, because that's not going to stop. It's not like the gig economy is going to stop, but what we have to do is kind of look at how can we be better prepared from the freelancer side, so that we're not sort of losing out. Are there any questions? No? I'm going to continue. So this is two of our circus people. All the people I'm showing are people that are in the production house. They're called Analog Acrobatics, and they're a touring duo, a couple, a circus couple. Yes. So yes, that's me. I think I'm done. And this is our latest employee. He's a robot from Linköping's Universitet that we just bought for a dance show by a dancer called Robin Jonsson, who's so this is the robot. I can't remember what it's called. Alex the robot. Yeah. Mm. Oh, have you? Yeah. So I'm gonna stop there. I think I'm done.